John D. Rockefeller, Discipline, Power, and the Philosophy of Wealth. There are names that transcend history, names that no longer belong only to a single person, but become symbols of entire eras. Napoleon symbolizes strategy and conquest. Picasso represents art and imagination. And John D. Rockefeller, his name has become synonymous with wealth, ambition, and contradiction. But behind the cold statistics, the first billionaire, the founder of Standard Oil, lies a story far richer than money. It is the story of a boy born into poverty, a man who built an empire, and a soul constantly negotiating between discipline and desire, between faith and fortune. It is, above all, a story about philosophy, about how one man turned oil into power, and power into legacy. From the beginning, Rockefeller's life was marked by tension. He was born in 1839 into a family that was anything but ideal. His father was a restless man, a traveling salesman with a reputation for dishonesty, whose presence in the household was irregular at best. His mother, by contrast, was devout and disciplined, a woman of deep faith who tried to instill in her children a sense of morality, order, and thrift. This contrast between chaos and order would define Rockefeller's life. As a boy, he knew what it meant to live with uncertainty. Money was always scarce, and every penny mattered. While other children played in fields, young John kept a small ledger in which he carefully noted down every coin he earned and every cent he spent. It was not just a habit. It was a way of taming the unpredictability of life. In those notebooks, he found control. He found structure. This obsession with order became his armor against chaos. By the time he was a teenager, Rockefeller had already set himself a goal. He once declared, "I want to earn $100,000 and live to be 100 years old." To many, it sounded like the impossible dream of a boy. To him, it was a contract with himself, a promise written into the fabric of his destiny. Working first as a clerk, he quickly distinguished himself. He was not the loudest, not the most charismatic, and not even the most talented, but he had something rarer than genius: relentless discipline. He arrived early, worked with precision, and noticed details others overlooked. Where others saw chaos, he saw patterns. Where others reacted impulsively, he calculated patiently. And then came oil. In the mid-19th century, America was on the brink of an energy revolution. Oil wells were springing up in Pennsylvania, fortunes were being made overnight, and chaos reigned. To many, it was a gold rush. To Rockefeller, it was something else. Not a gamble, but an opportunity to impose order on disorder. He founded Standard Oil with a vision larger than anyone could imagine. His strategy was simple but ruthless: control everything. From drilling to refining, from distribution to pricing, he wanted to eliminate uncertainty. He negotiated favorable deals with railroads, he bought out competitors, and when he could not buy them, he crushed them with lower prices. For some, he became the embodiment of greed, a tyrant of the market. For others, he was a genius organizer who brought efficiency and reliability to an industry plagued by chaos. By the height of his power, Standard Oil controlled more than 90% of America's oil refining. He was feared, hated, admired, and respected all at once. Yet, what makes Rockefeller's story so fascinating is not just his business empire, but his philosophy of life. Despite his unimaginable wealth, Rockefeller lived relatively simply. He was not interested in opulent mansions or extravagant parties. His focus was always on reinvestment, on growth, on building systems that would outlast him. To him, money was not a toy. It was proof of discipline, a scorecard of efficiency. He believed that waste was sin, that order was a form of morality, and he repeated one principle again and again: turn every disaster into an opportunity. When the U.S. government finally moved against him, breaking up Standard Oil in 1911, many thought it was the end of his empire. But Rockefeller understood something others did not. By splitting Standard Oil into dozens of smaller companies, the government inadvertently created multiple giants, Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, and others, that would thrive on their own. His personal fortune, instead of shrinking, grew even larger. It was perhaps the ultimate lesson of his life. Destruction can be the seed of rebirth if you have the patience and vision to see beyond the immediate moment. In his later years, Rockefeller underwent a transformation that few could have predicted. The feared oil magnate became the world's greatest philanthropist. He donated hundreds of millions of dollars to education, medicine, and scientific research. He funded universities, hospitals, and foundations that changed the face of modern society. He once said, "The man who dies rich dies disgraced." For him, wealth was not an end, but a responsibility. He came to see himself as a steward of resources, entrusted by God to use his fortune for the greater good. And so, in his old age, he became almost monk-like, walking through his gardens, handing out dimes to children he met, living not as a conqueror, but as a giver. What can we learn from Rockefeller's story today? First, that discipline is more powerful than talent. The world is full of brilliant ideas and gifted people, but very few who can build lasting systems. Rockefeller's genius was not invention, but organization. Second, that failure can be a disguised form of growth. The breakup of Standard Oil, which seemed like his greatest defeat, became the foundation of even greater wealth. Third, that wealth without purpose is empty. For Rockefeller, money had meaning only when it was directed toward building, growing, serving. And finally, that true greatness lies not in how much you take from the world, but in what you leave behind. Rockefeller's life is a paradox, and perhaps that is why it fascinates us still. He was both ruthless and charitable, feared and beloved, a titan of industry and a servant of faith. He showed that power can corrupt, but also that discipline can purify. His story is not just about oil or money or monopoly. It is about control over chaos. It is about a boy who turned poverty into strength and a man who turned fortune into philosophy. And maybe at the heart of it all, Rockefeller's greatest lesson is this: true wealth is not measured in billions, but in the order, legacy, and meaning we leave behind.